Hey guys, Brad Pryor here with Grip Branded, hanging out with John Dowdy with Equinety.
Yes, sir. We're hanging here at the Lazy E.
Yeah, the BFI 2026. How's it going for you?
Feels like NFR is what it feels like.
Well, this is y'all's little area. This is where Equinety is, right? In this area, or got us added on to Lazy E with y'all?
Yeah, we just added on. That's a whole story we can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But where are you from?
Bristow, just an hour east of here.
Okay.
So all my family still lives there, and when I graduated college, I moved up to Michigan for about 3 years, and then met my wife, and been in Florida since 2002.
Cool. You like Florida?
I like the golf. Yeah, I like the golf. But yeah, so we're kind of looking at maybe moving back this way. Just a lot of business this way and families this way. So
is the headquarters? Where's y'all's headquarters at?
Florida. Well, technically where I open my laptop. But
right.
Yeah.
I got you. How many kids?
Got son's 23, and I've got a stepson that's 33.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, how did you get in the horse business?
Well, I grew up about 300 acres and had horses and cattle and everything, and kind of all my family on both sides were in education, and I always had the entrepreneur spirit in me, and so I wanted to start off and prove to my family that I had my stuff together. So when I moved to Michigan, came out of there 100,000 in the hole, so that showed them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So moved to Florida, and I actually worked for a golf company for about a year and a half, making $250 a week. Looking back, the good Lord somehow provides.
Yeah.
Because my wife was on bed rest, and I mean, that's only good Lord was providing. So there was a guy that would come in the golf shop every day, and because I'm thinking, man, I got to find something to make some money. I got a family now, stepson, and my son's coming. And there was a State Farm guy that would come in about once a month, and one time he's driving a Corvette, and other times just down the line different. I'm like, I'll get in the insurance business. And so I got in the life insurance business with Northwestern Mutual, and so I went 2 weeks of training, and but before you get going in there, they want to have you do a whole business plan and everything else, and go over your finances. So, and you have all the district agents and all the other new sales agents and things. So you're going through your plan, and so I get towards the back with my finances. I said, well, that page pretty much speaks for itself, and we're moving right along. And they're like, ho, what's going on? So I, kind of told them the story. And they're saying, listen, you can make it. It's tough when you're starting everything. Well, and then when you get in the insurance business, they want you to make a list of your friends and family, and that's who you're going to hit first. And my family doesn't have any money, and I didn't have any friends in Florida because I just moved there. And so my district agent, he says, listen, I'll show you how to be the number one first-year agent in the entire Northwestern company, but nobody ever wants to do it. I'm like, well, what is it? He goes, well, I'm telling you, nobody wants to do it. I said, well, I'll do it. And he goes, well, I haven't told you yet. I said, well, what is it? He says, if you go knock on 1,000 doors and introduce yourself to businesses, then I guarantee you'll be the number one agent in the entire company. And I'm thinking there's another shoe drop in here. He goes, well, no, that's it. I'm like, well, shoot, I'll do that. I didn't make it to 1,000. I made it 750, and I finished fourth in the company and made $250,000 in commission.
Oh, wow.
And what I did with all that money, I don't know.
How old were you?
I had to be probably 30, 31.
Yeah.
And so during that time, I was introduced to this product, which leads into the Equinety. But this product, the particular amino acids were actually formulated in Canada back in '98. And it was for the 50-plus crowd, anti-aging youth formula. And so there was a guy that was 69-ish, and he started taking, he was apparently a grandmaster in karate, retired, and he started taking the product. And at 72, he started competing again. And so he went back to the company and said, hey, have you ever thought about making this for the athlete? And they're like, no, why? And so he tells them a story. And so they said, well, we'll make a sport product, which they just put the same label on the same different label on the same formula. So that's when I was introduced to it. And so I had a buddy of mine there in Southwest Florida that was in AAA with the Orioles. And I didn't even have the product. I just had it printed out on a 8.5 by 11 sheet. And I'm like, I said, man, you gotta try this product. It's really great stuff, amino acids. And he's like, dude, I am not touching that with a 10-foot pole. I'm like, it's amino acids. He goes, well, I don't know that. And now, if you remember, that was in 2006, 7, so all the Barry Bonds and all that doping stuff was going on. And I said, well, there's nothing in there other than amino acids. He goes, well, I don't know that either. And so he hooked me up with this organization because of all the Barry Bonds stuff. They were testing supplements and products. And if you could pass their testing, then the professional athlete knew that they could take it without getting dinged, So we went through that whole process, and we were the first supplement product to get passed. And so I worked with Major League Baseball for several years, a lot of the strength coaches, and getting product in. And through the years, the product had been used on animals, but never really marketed to that industry. They didn't really know how to market that. And so in 2014, I worked out a deal to use the formula, and we just put the exact same formula in a tub and called it Equinety. So at one time, the youth formula, the sport, and the Equinety were all sourced from the same raw materials, packaged in the same facility under 3 labels. So, yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah. What do you think makes y'all's product superior to anything else on the market?
Superior is a strong word. I'll say unique.
Probably not the right word. Sorry about that. I didn't think about that. I didn't intentionally say that.
No. That's all right.
Hey, it's a podcast. We're raw here.
Podcast.
I'm not trying to advertise nobody else's product.
No.
It's Equinety.
Yeah. What I always say, what makes our product unique from
there you go.
From anything, yeah, and different, unique and different. Our amino acids are designed to do something very specific, which is stimulate the pituitary gland. So, and then people say, oh, do you have a science degree? Do you have? I'm saying, no, I'm Oklahoma educated, so you got to keep it simple for me. But I hung out a lot with a formulator who is a family physician in Canada, and he's very British, so everything was creme de la creme. And what he figured out was the stack of amino acids are specific to targeting the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland is about the size of a pea in your brain, and this is what releases hormones. So for people, we're at the peak of our hormones up to the age of 25. By age 40, we're about 30% less, and then it just decreases 10 to 12% per decade. So it's the aging process.
Right.
And so the uniqueness of it is most supplements that are out there are targeting one specific thing: the joints, the gut, hair coat, top line, so on and so forth. And so a lot of people, they end up with all these supplements, and sometimes you don't know if they're really working, but you feel good because you're giving your horse something, And what we found with now almost 12 years, because we're allowing the body to repair itself. And so typically what we found, horses that have stress, anxiety, are a bit spooky, we've seen complete demeanor changes in as little as 2 or 3 days. Because our product works very fast, and it's only a teaspoon for a serving size. There's no loading dose, there's not any junk in it, it's just straight amino acids. But what happens is, as soon as you feed it in the morning, as an example, within a few hours it's 100% absorbed. We just did a study last year with Oklahoma State University just to prove that yes, it does indeed absorb. And so the hormones are released relatively quickly and have a 23.5-hour life cycle. So this is why you feed it every day, and consistency is the key. And my opinion on the demeanor changes and the less stress is there's something maybe bothering the horse, which is causing the stress and the anxiety. And so when you feed the product, the body fixes whatever that irritation was. And so now they're just calmer and cooler in the skin. In about a week to 2 weeks, they feel better in their saddle. You'll notice the recovery stamina focus is big. 2 weeks to 30 days, they're starting to slick out, shine up, top line and hips are filling in. And then the overall longer use, the overall hoof quality, the sole depth, anything to do with the hoof, it's going to help. Soft tissue, the gut, mane and tail's really growing. So, at $1 a scoop, it's pretty darn inexpensive for all the benefits that you get.
A scoop for a day.
One scoop for one day. Now, if you have an injured horse or one that you're really asking a lot out of and you're hauling them up and down the road, if you do a scoop in the morning and a scoop in the evening, then what that's doing is it keeps the hormone levels elevated, so it promotes faster recovery. So typically any injuries that we obviously don't hear about all the injuries, but the ones we do hear about, if it's a 4-month recovery or a 6 or 8 month, it's always way ahead of schedule on the recovery.
Gotcha. And what other products do y'all offer outside of the powder?
So we were 7 years on the market with just the powder, amino acids, and then there was a vet that had reached out to us and suggested we come out with a secondary product. And I said, well, it has to work with what we have, number one, because we don't want to be a company that has a lot of supplements. And the fact is that our amino acids do so much. So I told him, I'm like, well, I don't even know what we would come out with, number one. Number two, it has to work with what we have. And so he suggested it's an oil product, so it's flaxseed-based omega-3. It's got 1,000 IUs of natural cold press vitamin E and colloidal silver. So it's a really, really powerful anti-inflammatory. And then it works with the amino acids to give the repaired cells some nutrition, which, just helps them operate at optimal levels. So the combination, what we found through the years, is just a really solid supplement foundation. And there's going to be the one-offs where your horses might need other things, minerals or magnesium or whatever the case might be, but just for a basic solid supplement foundation. The other thing that we found, just with the amino acids alone, people are typically saving 20 to 40% in vet bills and other supplements. And it makes sense because, your horses are healthier, they're more balanced. And so, it's easy. And, it's a very small tub, and so it doesn't take up a lot of room. And
yeah. You take it yourself, right?
I do. We don't promote it for human consumption, of course. But if you go back to the beginning of the story, it came from the same source materials as the human stuff. But yeah. And interestingly enough, humans take the same dose as a horse because in mammals, the pituitary gland is roughly the same size.
Really?
In mammals, yeah.
Huh. So anything new coming out, or just sticking with the?
Well, right now, we're sticking with what we got and rolling with it. And I'm always open to things, but it has to make sense. Not just to come out with stuff for the sake of coming out with it. Our products are top shelf. And so if we came out with something else, it would have to fit in with what we have. Because, you can get whatever you want from
so many different,
out there. Yeah, so many different places. So, it's just keep it simple, really.
Yeah. And there's so many products out there, too. So, that's what big thing I wanted to hone in on why y'all are dominate the market and have done so well with this is, there's so many supplement companies that sell so many supplements. Y'all have the one, with the oil, or two now. But it's like, I want to really get that out there. Why?
I would say simply put, it works. It works fast. And, here's a good story. So back in the day, when people would advertise in newspapers, magazines, if you got a 1 or 2% conversion rate, that was considered successful, a good thing. I don't know how they would stay in business with that conversion, but that was considered good. So when we first started, the only place you could buy our product was through our website. And so we've got little 30-day tubs. And so I would give away product on Facebook, and we'd call it the Equinety 30-day challenge. And so in return, we would get pictures, before and after pictures. And some of these horses just look so drastically different. You'd have to be looking for markings and stuff because they bloomed out and filled out. And so many stories would come in. And so by tracking the conversion rate, it was 30 to 33% conversion rate. And when nobody really knew who we were. So then what I figured out is I will partner with people with databases, whether it be farriers or trainers or whoever the case might be. And so I would get them the product, let them try it on a few horses, and then I would send them like a dozen of our 30 days and ask them to strategically hand this out to people that really wanted to try it. And what we found is our conversion rate was upwards 95%, north of 95%. Wow. And so, like here at the BFI this whole week, we're giving away, we call it the Equinety steer. So if you just rope clean, then they win 30 days of Equinety. So the more product that we can get out to people that have never tried it, or even if they are using it, they're happy as clams because they get an extra 30 days, whatever the case might be. So, yeah, it's so we give away a lot of product because we want people to try it and they'll see the results. Several years ago, did you know Patrick Gotch over at Cowboy Channel? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we had been advertising on there for 2 years. And so I get invited out to the ranch out in New Mexico, and I didn't know it was going to be a pitch fest out there. I'm like, hey, we're getting invited to the ranch. And so it was a half day, full day, half day. And so the first evening, we're at the hacienda up there, and they're doing steak dinners and everything. And so I made a comment. Kami Peterson was standing there, and Patrick, and I made a comment that my internal motto was worldwide domination. And Patrick thought this was so funny. So anyways, the next day, he was explaining, and he had charts to show, hey, if you're advertising at this level, this is the viewership, and if you spend more money than, basic stuff. And he says, I want to sit down with each one of you and come up with a plan for this year. And he goes, look, I own a TV station, so we can do whatever you want. If you've got ideas, let's do it. And so we go back in Don Imus's old radio studio back in there. And so I was sitting in this spot, and Kami was beside me, and Patrick was around on the other side. And so I'm talking about the history of Equinety and handshake deals that have gone south. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, I've had a lot of those go south. I still do them. And, bad business partners and this and that. And he says, what's it going to take this worldwide domination to be a reality and a household name? And I said, well, I knew we're spending $80,000 right now. I could probably bump that to 100 and might be able to go to 200, but I don't want to commit to, got to run the company and everything. And he's like, okay, how about this? We do $500,000, we make it a household name. I'm going, did he not hear the maybe part on the 200? And so I'm poker facing, my brain's going crazy. I'm like, what is going on? I said, 500,000. He goes, yeah. He goes, but here's the deal. If at any time you think it's not working, then you just call me and we'll turn it off. I'm like, okay, I got it out. What could I possibly lose? Let's see, credibility, my mortgage,
family.
Yeah, what the heck. So it's quiet, and I'm thinking, I'm running through my head, thinking, well, I got an out. I mean, if worst case comes to worst, just pull the chain, I said, 500,000. He goes, yep. I said, all right, let's do it. And if you ask Kami about this, she's like, I have never seen anything like this in my life. And so we were chit-chatting a little bit more. Well, he comes up and he walks around over here to my shoulder. I'm like, what is this guy doing? I stand up and he sticks his hand out. He goes, handshake deal. So we shook hands. So Weston, who he lives up in Canada, he runs our logistics of everything and makes sure that everything's going according. He's the spreadsheet guy, got to have a plan for everything. If it wasn't for him, I tell people he runs the whole company. I just come out and have fun. But so I called him. I'm excited. I'm like, dude, you will not believe what just happened. And Sean, what are you doing? He goes, okay. What about the contract? I said, well, it's just a handshake deal. There's no contract. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, what happens next? I said, well, I don't know. I mean, we just shook hands. There's no plan to anything. So 2 weeks later, I'm having breakfast with Patrick in Fort Worth. And I said, hey, I've got an idea for a commercial. He says, what do you got? And so I told him about the conversion rates, how that works. I said, what if we shot a commercial and called it the Equinety 30-Day Challenge, and we just give product away? And they just have to go to our website, and they could fill out the form, and we just ship it to them for free. He goes, I like it. When can you do it? I said, well, I'll be back next month. So on TV, they like 30-second commercials, and this was a 60-second, because you had to explain it and everything. And I think we gave away over 3,000 units. It may have been more than that. It's roughly, remember, 3,000. And I tell you, if Patrick didn't play this commercial every day, he played it twice a day. It was just nonstop. And, we had, T-Wade was our first team roper that we had, which he was on the 2 years prior to that. And we were starting to get more pros on board at that time. But so we had collateral to be able to use from the pros, but the product works. I mean, and so, we're blessed in that way that when you have something that works really fast and really well, then the product speaks for itself and people see the results themselves. And so, yeah, that really helped put us on the map pretty quick by doing that. And we did a follow-up commercial the next year, buy one, get one free. And then, so that was a lot of fun.
But you feel like that's kind of what launched it out there?
I think so. It was a combination of the timing of the whole thing with Patrick, and then we had some pros on board. And, Nick Griggs, or prior to any pros on board, I was doing everything on Facebook. And it was literally, the algorithms were such in a way, because I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And I'm just taking before and afters, put the testimonial. And it was literally like flipping a light switch. when you would turn that ad on, and then sales would just start coming in. I think the last year that I did it, we spent almost $1 million in Facebook advertising. And Nick Griggs over at the Team Roping Journal cold called me. I didn't even know who he was. And I just thought, man, if this is an old roping cowboy, just shoot me right now. Because, you know. And he wanted me to advertise in the Team Roping Journal. And I said, not doing it, Nick. I said, social media is where it's at. And I said, but here's a real problem. I don't even have a team roper that has a name. You know, I'm not just not going to run something in a news or in a magazine. And I said, I tell you what, give me a week or two. Let me see what I can come up with. So I called Danita Walker. That's Carly Otero's mom. She has a rehab facility in Lipan. And she's been using products since 2017. So every horse that comes in, she puts on product. They come out ahead of schedule. They look great. And so I called Danita and told her my little dilemma. I said, I need a team roper like yesterday. She goes, well, let me make a phone call. So she calls me back pretty quick, and she goes, I have the perfect couple for you. I said, who's that? And she goes, Jesse and T-Wade. And I said, what's your story? And she goes, well, he had this horse that had fractures in both front legs, supposed to be out for 6 months, came back in 3. And they've been using your product for a whole year, or over the past year. And yeah, they'd love to talk with you. And so he was the first one we got on board. And then T-Wade's been great. He introduced me to a lot of the people that we have, you know, from the early days. And, you know, his brain's always going. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, always. 90 different directions, too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
How many people are in the company?
That's funny. We have no employees.
0 employees. Wow, that's a new one.
New business model right there.
Yeah. I can try that.
How did we do
and
that?
You make money?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, so Weston and I, we run the whole company by ourselves.
Really?
And, so we're very automated. So any orders that come through our website, we use third-party warehouses. And so we've got warehouses in Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Utah. So all the orders go into the Georgia warehouse, and they determine where to ship it. And, of course, we sell on Amazon, and then we've gotten into all the major feed stores and a lot of small-town feed stores. And so one of the things I did early on is in our email campaigns after somebody would order, if any of the customers could get us into their local feed store, then we would give them a free tub of Equinety. But what we would do with the feed stores, we'd send them 6 or 12 of the little 30 days for free, and then have them strategically hand those out, and they had an automatic customer base. Because, you know, when I was first trying to get product into the stores, I would get in my camper and go all across Florida and, you know, walk into feed stores, and then it didn't take me long to realize I'm just another sales guy coming in. They've got umpteen million supplements, and who am I? And so I reverse engineered that whole thing, and I thought, well, if I give them free product and they strategically hand it out to people, they're going to see the results and then come back and want to buy. So it's easy for the store to place an order then. So that's how we built up all the stores.
What's your biggest retailer?
Oh, man. We've got, of course, NRS, Teskey's, Valley Vet, Jeffers Pet, Big D's.
What do you think when out of those companies, what do you think, why do you think they are your leading retailers?
Well,
they know the product better, or because they're more hands-on with their clients, or the product just sells itself?
I think in a big way it sells itself. You know, one of my other philosophies is, and I don't know if, I think when you sponsor somebody, you know, some people think, oh, I'm going to sponsor this big person, and then your sales are just going to take off.
Right.
My philosophy is I don't look at them as one of my salespeople. And so a few years back, you know, we had cut some commercials with T-Wade and Thorpe and a couple people, and T-Wade had called me and he goes, hey, I want to shoot a new commercial, and I want to have the camera crew come back, but I want to go down each of the stalls and talk about how the products help each one of the horses differently, even though it's the same product, and shoot a new commercial. I said, all right. I said, you know these commercials are 30 seconds, right? And he's like, no, not like that. He goes, you know, like MTV Cribs.
That's no surprise.
Yeah. And so I said, well, what are you going to have, your hat cocked sideways and sunglasses and a doobie? He goes, well, no, probably not the doobie part. But I said, well, let me think on that. And so I called him the next day. I said, how about this? We'll call it the Equinety barn check. And so most people want to see what's going on behind the scenes at the pros places. And so it can be as long as you want. I mean, typically 8 to 12, 13 minutes. And you're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about. So it'll be like a marketing piece for your place. And you're obviously going to talk about Equinety, but it's not a sales pitch for Equinety. And so we did about 18 or 20 of these. And Bill Myers was the first one that we did, because we also know that our product helps in the breeding side with motility and fertility. And I asked T-Wade, I said, hey, I need somebody with some creds in the breeding world that would be open to try us. I said, I'll supply all the product for the whole breeding season. And so we ended up, Bill had great results with his studs. And so we shot the Equinety barn check was the first one we did with Bill Myers. Well, I later found out that whole story with the Myers family and Frenchman's guy had never been put in a video format. People knew the story, but it had never been. So it was really neat to be able to put that as a family legacy for them. And so, you know, my philosophy is it's not just about patching people up or, you know, expecting others to grow your company. Like, I'm responsible for that. And so putting a patch on is just the first step, and now it's investing more money to promote and promote and promote. And so, you know, keeping things rolling hard on the Cowboy channel with commercials, new commercials, doing the Equinety barn checks. And so at the end of the day, when people in this industry are looking around, it's like, oh, there's Equinety, there's Equinety, there's Equinety. It's like everywhere and then they're talking to people. It's like, and then people are telling their stories about Equinety. And so, and that, you know, now we've got the Equinety Center here at the Lazy E, which is, you know, pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, I asked that question because I think when you do think about supplements and things for any animal or humans, like, you know, when you're trusting a retailer to sit there and actually put your product out for you, what is that key thing that gets people to know? Obviously, branding is what I hear what you're saying.
Right.
So people are going to the store to buy it. They're not actually researching nothing at the store.
Yeah, and it's a big part of it. And the other thing that I did, because, you know, when you have a product that works, it works fast, then a lot of what I did in the beginning is whoever was over the supplement department, most of them have horses, so I would give them product so they could see what it did, so they have a story. And so now when people would come in, then they're hearing real life testimonials from somebody of what the product did for them. And then you add to that the commercials and people just word of mouth.
Yeah,
is, you know,
that's a big thing in business for a lot of different businesses.
Yeah,
but especially when you're trying to improve the quality of an animal. Like,
right.
You know, people like to hear the word of mouth stuff a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, people just want what's best for the horse. They want the horse feeling good and looking good, and I think we check those boxes off pretty well.
Yeah, most people don't realize how much is, you know, these animals they're so pampered. You know what I mean? And they get the best of the best. I mean, mine will get spa days. They get all kinds of stuff these days. You know, but they take better care of them than themselves.
That's right. Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think that's pretty neat. What's something that nobody knows about you, or would be surprised to know about you?
Well, I'm a pretty simple guy.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah. I do play the fiddle.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, I love the fiddle. You any good?
Well, in my own mind, I'm pretty darn good. But
how many whiskeys did it take you to sound good?
That's right. That's the question. No, I started playing violin when I was in second grade and played for a while and didn't play for years, and then played some in college, and then didn't play for years. And then my dad, about 3 years ago, he turned 70, and he told my niece, his granddaughter, that he wanted to start playing the violin, and so they bought him one off Amazon, and then I had a couple extra ones, so I gave to him, and you know, that sucker plays 2-3 hours a day. Well, he's obviously retired now, and so he's getting better, and so then of course I thought, well, I better keep my game up, so I've been playing pretty hard over the last 3 years. Yeah.
I love good fiddle.
I'm straight bluegrass guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be dang. I wouldn't have thought that.
I know. Well, you know, last night up at in the cantina, they had the band up there with the fiddler, and Abe over at Resistol was standing there. And I said, yeah, I just requested a wagon wheel, and told the gal, I hope she's got her fiddle cross tuned so she can play this. And Abe goes, Oh, I play violin. I mean, that cross-tuned is violin fiddle talk.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, apparently Abe was good enough to get a college scholarship, playing classical of all things. But he plays all kinds of stuff.
Oh really?
I know. I said I got a couple in the trailer. I'm bringing them over. We can fiddle up at the Resistol booth.
I'd like to hear that.
Yeah.
I would really like to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. He might put me to shame though. I'm like, here, you just play yourself.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. We're learning more about a lot of people. Well, what's the future look like for Equinety? Is it, and I'm gonna ask you this, you don't have to answer it, but my brand's not for sale. And everybody says, yeah, if somebody offers you the right amount of money, you'll take it. And I disagree with that. Because I feel like I do it so well, why would I want to let somebody run it? And does that make any sense?
No, 100%. I had somebody ask me this last night.
Really?
About if we've had anybody make any offers or anything. And I said, before we really got going, there was a couple people that kind of came around, and I'm like, And then as you start growing it, it's like you're so ingrained in the industry, and it goes to what you say. It's like, man, it would be really tough to let go. Now, possibly if it was the right person, but man, I don't see it because I put close to 12 years into it, and yeah, that's the emotional side, and you have the business side, but I've developed so many great relationships out here, and like even like I handle our whole pro team, and several years ago I had somebody that wanted to introduce me to this young gal that she can take over your whole pro team, free you up and everything. I said, why would I do that? Because that's how I stay in touch with what's going on. I've got a relationship with all those. And so, I guess it comes down to, I guess if some massive amount of money came in, might get you to thinking a little bit, but I think there would be other factors that would come into play too.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with our brand, what we do is so unique, and it takes everybody that works here to do it.
Yes.
I really can't take one person away and it would still keep going the way it goes. So, and I always look at that and I'm like, when you bring a new player in that owns it, they'll never know how to work this madness.
No, you're right. And so many times too, when you get even new leadership in a company, take a big company and they bring in a new CEO or new management or whatever, and all of a sudden they start making all these changes, which may or may not be good for that company, and so yeah, it could definitely hurt a company quick.
Yeah, you can't run everything by numbers.
No, you can't. I 100% agree.
Based.
100% agree.
So, if you had to give somebody an 18-year-old advice, or yourself at 18, what would that advice be?
From an entrepreneur standpoint, whatever your goal is, you can't stop. And if I wrote down the number of failures and side hustles that I had, and even in the insurance company, I was working with the sport product on the side, and because that was like fun. The insurance was like, I was making money, but I wasn't 100% passionate about it. I mean, and I did deals where I would list products. I would take an Amazon product, list it on eBay for a higher amount, and if it sold on eBay, then I would just drop ship it from Amazon to the person. They would come in an Amazon package, and so sometimes you make $50, $20, $15, and but that's not a long-lived deal. But I was side hustling all the time because I was looking for something that I could get really passionate about, and then getting in the sport product eventually led over to here. And so you just got to keep working hard, and don't ever let people discourage you, and because there's a lot of naysayers out there.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so yeah, you got to keep your nose to the grindstone. And the other thing is, every day I thank the Lord for the blessings that we have, and just for waking up in the morning and having a great product that we have. And on both of our products, we've got Philippians 4:13 right on the label. And my idea with that was everybody that opens the product, maybe they get some kind of a blessing for the day.
Sure.
So yeah, it's just, and you got to have good character, and you got to be out there and talking to people and shaking hands, and especially in this industry, that's how it works, belly to belly and shaking hands.
Yep. Do you think there's anything in particular being an entrepreneur that you've embraced that's really set everything to a path of what you're at today?
I mean, I think one of the other important things is if you tell somebody you're going to do something, then follow through with it. And if you fall short, then fess up to it. And it's not a big deal. I mean, this happens to me more times when I'm on the road and I'll take a phone call and somebody needs product, and which Weston handles most of all of our putting in product, but a lot for the pros and stuff, I'll put them in myself. And, if I'm on the road driving or whatever, I'll drop the ball sometimes. And 2 weeks goes by and like, hey, never got that product. I said, dadgummit. I'm like, man, I'm so sorry I was on the road. And just apologize. I mean, people are sympathetic and they understand everybody's busy. And, so I try to have zero ego in anything because I don't look at myself as any important than anybody else. And, I think
that's a big thing. I've always seen you carry yourself well, and you don't let none of that get to your head. And I think it's a big thing of being an entrepreneur. Don't let your britches get too big.
Yeah, well, because I think you find out real quick you're not as big as what you think you are. And, so I try.
You don't have to be either.
No, just be real. I mean, I joke around with people and, pulled the small arms on you last night. So
yeah, you did. You got me. You got me good, too. I'm all intrigued. Like, yeah. I know we don't fall for stuff like that either. So, but you got me.
I just try to joke around with people and have fun and be nice. I mean, good character is a big part of the game.
And that's one of the most rarest things these days.
Yeah, well, the world is small, and you screw somebody over on something, and that'll come back to bite you real quick. So,
100%.
Yeah.
If you had to define your grit with one word, what would it be?
My grit?
Your grit with one word.
A good one. That's 2 words. 3 words, maybe.
That's the problem. It always gets people, they're like, one word? Yeah, one word. Because grit defines so much, and you try to find another word that pairs up with it.
I would say passion.
Passion? Good one. That's what drives the bus most of the time.
Yeah.
Get you out of bed every morning.
Right. Yeah.
Well, John, it was cool hanging out.
Awesome. Absolutely. Appreciate it very much.
Appreciate you having me. All right, stay tuned for your next Grit podcast.